Hey, greetings everybody. This is Wesley Pepper. This is the Art Lecture podcast. It's episode 91. And if you guys listened to me last week, you'll know that the load shedding thing has been killing us, man. And like even now, I know Siza's side, she's actually sitting without power right now, so that stinks. But like whatever, man. Like I said in that little short thingy last week, we're trying to work around this whole problem. Which is exactly what we're doing. So yeah, enough about that. So yeah, I mean, like I said in last week's thing, we've got a really cool guest today, and we're talking about a really cool concert, the WOMAD Music Festival, which is really cool. So we're gonna talk to one of the guys behind it, Mr. Dan Chiorboli. Chiorboli. Yeah, sorry, my brother. Like sometimes names and my tongue gets a bit thick. First of all, man, it's a Saturday and we're recording this on a Saturday morning. It's the 24th of spring. It's actually Heritage Day today. So I don't know, should I greet you Happy Heritage Day? I don't think people do that. But firstly, good morning, my brother. How are you?
Morning, Wes. I'm going to change my name to Pepper from now on. You call me Dan Pepper. More easier.
Yeah, it's actually my surname, eh? Yeah, I gotta thank my grandparents for that. And it kind of worked for me. People always remember that. My brother, after all of that, I know it's a Saturday morning. The WOMAD Festival is starting in 2 weeks' time. They're about, it's a massive thing. The lineup is extensive. There's some really cool artists from very interesting part of the world, which is, I think, Chile. I actually don't know any musicians from that part of the world. I thought that was seriously interesting. We have some really interesting local acts. Siza, I also know well. So there's some really interesting sounds from Joburg. So just for the listeners, man, can you just give us like an overview of what the festival is about, who's happening, what's happening, and we'll just unpick it bit by bit after that.
Cool. For those of you who have heard of an incredible artist called Peter Gabriel, he's the guy behind WOMAD. He started it in 1982. So the festival is actually 40 years old this year, which is unbelievable, for a festival that is not a mainstream kind of festival. It's always been renowned as a niche sort of focused festival, and it's unbelievable, because it's been in 32 countries since 1982, and it's touched in the region of 39 million souls, which is mind-boggling, and that's a testament to Peter's stature as an artist, and particularly as a human being, and he's never sold out. He's had a couple of offers, in fact quite a few offers from, I won't mention names, but big American corporates to sell the brand and bring it into the mainstream, and he's always gone against that because he feels that if it goes into a commercial element, we're going to lose the soul and the ethos of the festival, and then it just becomes about money. And that's not what WOMAD is about. The pillars of WOMAD are job creation in the cultural sector, and that's something that we can touch on because of COVID, because that's hit us really hard. Cultural tourism, to bring tourism into South Africa, and that's one of the reasons why we came up with the moniker of the South African Safari, the identification of young talent that we can bring onto the WOMAD festivals around the world, and subsequent to that to the European Festival Forum, which has an affiliation of over 2,700 festivals in Western and Eastern Europe, which is unbelievable, and WOMAD feeds talent into that. And the other thing that is particularly close to my heart is the annual theme that we've taken on to showcase First Nations and Indigenous talent from all over the world. So that's pretty much us going forward. With regards to the safari, the feeling that COVID really ravaged us, we were ready to go just before COVID struck, in fact. And I think it was the 21st of March, Wes. 21st of March, we were going to launch at the end of that year. We were going to launch at the end of March. So we had 8 days, and it killed us completely. Some of the sponsors then not reneged on their sponsorship, but they cut down dramatically. Our main sponsor cut their sponsorship by 65%. So we had to re-look at everything, But Peter was adamant that we should go ahead because he felt really passionately about developing the brand in South Africa. He's got a very close affinity to South Africa. He was one of the protagonists, one of the guys behind the Nelson Mandela concerts in London. He's on the Bishop Tutu Foundation. He was with the elders, with Nelson Mandela and Jimmy Carter and Walter Sisulu. And a little known fact that most people don't even know about was his song Biko that he wrote about Stephen Biko. The royalties still accrue to the Tambo Education Foundation in South Africa. But he's a guy that doesn't make a big noise about it. He goes under the radar. He's a really down-to-earth, lovely guy. There's no big ego. There's no big start. And that permeates through the WOMAD environment. His belief is that all artists are equal. So you'll see that, on the bill, even the smallest artist still gets the same font size as the big ones, because his rationale is and a good example is a girl called Carla Grunewald from Chile, who's coming out for WOMAD. She's massive in Latin America, massive, but nobody's heard of her in South Africa. So what makes her less important or somebody else more important than her, because she's been in a north. So that's his rationale. And the reason why we came up with the South African Safari was, rather than do a big festival for 10, 15,000 people, we're still suffering from COVID. We've still got to get there, and the feeling was to have these small boutique style events around the country where people can engage with the artists directly. The artists can come into the various communities and engage with the community directly, instead of having this big festival where you just don't have that real connectivity with the people and the artists. So these are really small events, starting off in Cape Town on the 1st and 2nd of October, where we literally take over the V&A waterfront. There's 5 performance areas in the V&A over the 2 days. And then we do community workshops where the international artists, mostly the First Nations, Indigenous guys, go out into Khayelitsha, Mitchell's Plain, Ocean View, Langa, Philippi, and those are really important things, because it's about getting the kids on board and understanding that there's a deeper sense to art and culture than going out on TikTok and creating something like that. And then we were approached by the Hermanus Business Chamber, who seemed to be very, very go ahead, a bunch of people, and they wanted to do something really small in Hermanus. So we were going to do something in the old harbour in Hermanus, which is a historic and heritagely relevant one because of the whales and the marine biology center. Incredible, because our slogan is WOMAD is culture, community, and conservation. And we'll get to next year just now, so we do something in Hermanus on Sunday the 2nd, which is great. And then the whole tribe comes up to Joburg. We hit Soweto on Tuesday night. There's a series of workshops and masterclasses in Soweto. There's a great concert in Soweto, in the Soweto Theatre, on the Friday night. And then on the Thursday, and this is particularly dear to my heart because I was born in Italy. I came over when I was 6 years old, and my grandmother's family was involved in the partisan resistance in Italy. So I've done a lot of research on the family and gone back into that. And the funny thing, and tell me if I'm talking too much here.
I go on, my brother. This is super interesting,
yeah.
and I'm listening very closely.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Wes.
Please go.
My grandmother, this is so strange. She was a concert pianist, you know, she was a classical pianist, but she actually fought in the trenches of the partisan resistance. And when I went back to where I was born a couple of years ago, I went to the Liberation Museum and I found these incredible photographs of her carrying a rifle, you know, holding a rifle with the head tapped back, you know. So that really developed my interest. And then I subsequently found out that the province of Reggio Emilia was the first province and city in the world who actually housed the ANC in exile, far before Lusaka and Dar es Salaam, you know. So that's a historic thing. So I've developed a theme whereby this amazing Italian group by the name of Modernist City Ramblers from Reggio Emilia are going to do a free concert for the people of Soweto, basically in solidarity and in connectivity to say thank you guys. We've walked this path of liberation and struggle together. And then we culminate in Joburg at Patson Park, which is a fantastic multi-purpose venue that's just been set up by the city of Joburg on the 8th of October. And that is the only paying event that we have in WOMAD, and we've tried to keep the prices as low as possible to get as many community members and artists particularly, and audience. And that's pretty much in a nutshell. And maybe I should also add the fact that part of the identification of South African artists to perform on the global circuit is a series of collaborations with recording sessions. So we've tried to identify certain South African artists and team them up with some international artists, go into the recording studio, come up with something and a project that they could particularly take into the rest of the world. But it's a South African born project as well.
Hey, my brother, you said a bunch there, some really cool stuff. So I'd like to actually just go to the beginning, because there are a few things you started off there with, like the ethos of behind WOMAD with job creation, and the fact that it's not commercially based. That thing actually raises a very interesting question for me, because music events, that's, it's a seriously capital driven thing. It's all money. It's and the sponsorship and the budgets for these things are growing, because like the youth, the younger folk, but even my generation, we're way more visual people now, and that's what gets us keeps our attention. Whereas like maybe, let's say 15, 20 years ago, you could get by just doing acoustic set. Now there needs to be some form of a gimmick or something to keep. And I know that there's massive budgets involved in that, and teams and so forth and so on. So that, with that said, now with how you guys are more crossing space, which is dope, big up to that. But like I kind of okay, that's not going to be the casual. Well, that was very interesting though, the stuff you said about him. I didn't know that, especially about the track people. I didn't know that. That was really cool. So based on this like new world that we're living in, this visual, the strong world, this big budget, and the fact that you guys are more like a young grassroots space. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that? And you say job creation, that's also pretty interesting. So like what type of opportunity is coming through that, and how does that work? And then a bit later we can unpick the actual shows and how you're gonna keep your audience and that type of thing in a post-COVID world.
Sorry, Wes, what was the first question, please?
The first question was around the job creation thing, man. Can you tell us like what processes, what projects you have in mind? How does what's that about and so forth? You can pick it after that.
Yeah, that's really important, because what we've done is we haven't engaged with any national service providers, i.e. lighting, all that kind of stuff. We've kept away from doing these contracts like taking on one management company that handles everything. No, it makes our work definitely a lot harder, because there's a lot more work that goes into identifying the cultural ecosystem in Soweto, for instance. And I'm talking about artists, agents, artist minders, stage managers, technical guys, social media, legal, hospitality, all that kind of stuff. You know, it makes our job probably 5 times as hard, but it's 5 times more rewarding, because you can see these guys buying into the concept, buying into the WOMAD ethos. And these are the guys that, these teams, you know, to be honest, I think we'll only know after the festival how good the guys have delivered.
Yeah.
But that's part of our soul, you know, and it's part of our strategy and philosophy to identify this cultural ecosystem that we can develop in a relationship going forward, you know. And if you look at 40 years of WOMAD, who says maybe we can go 40 years in South Africa of WOMAD, which would be incredible, you know. So can you imagine how we can upskill the teams and the guys we've got on the ground now? But we've got to start somewhere, you know. And we've got a 5-year plan that I think it is very rewarding if we can really make everything happen. And it's a cultural ecosystem. You're talking about COVID, you know, not just the artists and the engineers. It was
everybody.
It was everybody that's involved in the cultural ecosystem. And that, I'm sorry to say, we have to make our government understand that that's the case. It goes to guys like you know, completely. Venues, you know, the venues took an absolute hammering, you know. The people that ran the bars and the venues, the attendance guys, all that kind of stuff, it's all part of the cultural ecosystem. So, you know, if I can say in a very small and humble way, you know, we're trying to make a difference, and
that's great.
Know, that is what we need to do, you know.
That's great. I'd like to just continue a little bit more there, because you're raising a super interesting point, and spoke about that a lot on the platform. COVID has decimated our industry. It's a dramatic word, but it's really been that dramatic. And the few of us that could still make some form of could still create art and make a living over the past 2 years or so, those are the real strong ones. I actually know a bunch of people in the industry that has passed on, and some who's not really as active. So I think it's like a breath of fresh air for like a concept like this, because so far there's been very little. I mean, as you know, government has done nothing. There's been very little intervention by anybody or anything that's really, how can I say, worthwhile, or as that's producing any like just a point, just a frustration. I guess I'm in that mood. One of the most frustrating things about being a creative in a post-COVID world is that all the opportunities you have to apply for, like it's a competition. So you have like everybody who's affected in so many different ways, and they kind of push it into this category. You got to take all your everything and push it into 1, 2, 3 categories, and then you have somebody with a pen or whatever. I don't know, the process is clicking. I find that thing also incredibly frustrating. I know I'm not the only creative that's dealing with that. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Also, there's also an interesting point you raised there about like you guys having a 5-year plan and then moving forward. What's that about? And where's the desire? You know, where you guys need to move forward? Where you guys need to expand? And yeah, let's just talk a little bit about that.
Okay, sure, Wes. Yeah, just go there. You know, I have a particular bugbear, you know, and that's corporate South Africa. You know, our corporates should be getting involved with their corporate social responsibility programs a hell of a lot more than what they're doing. You know, and there's a big disconnection there between the culture and the corporate sector. But in saying that, you know, we've had incredible support from the City of Cape Town, the Western Cape government, our own Department of Arts and Culture. They've been incredible to work with, you know. but we're working in a silo. We're working in an oasis that we've got to get a little bit broader from that, and that leads onto the 5-year plan. So for 23, what we'll do is over the Heritage Day weekend, in fact, starting today, can you believe it? It's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Monday is a holiday, so that's going to be the community weekend, where we'll have culture, community, and conservation, because I'm passionate about conservation. I'm a Project Rhino global ambassador. We want to bring conservation in awareness to school kids and that kind of stuff. So the first weekend will be the Heritage weekend, where we have community events which include conservation, sport, heritage, culture. And we're already talking to Limpopo, Mpumalanga, the Western Cape's on board, Gauteng is on board. I'd love to do something in the Northern Cape, especially with indigenous roots and San and Khoisan heritage. I'd love to do something like that. So if you can help and point us in the right direction.
Absolutely, and I'd
love to do that. Absolutely.
For sure, we can talk offline
absolutely. Such a vital thing. So it looks like, we're talking to KZN. KZN aren't easy to convince because of the political circumstances. So it looks like we're going to have 6 or 7 community events over the Heritage Day weekend. And then during that week, we'll have the recording sessions and the workshops. And what we'd like to do, and talking Northern Cape, we'd like to take, for instance, some musicians into the Northern Cape to do workshops and a series of small gigs around Kimberley or this area. That's what we'd like to do. And then the last weekend of September will be, we take over the entire Soweto Theatre complex. That's 4 theatres plus the amphitheatres. So we can get a spread of around 8,500-9,000 people over the 2 days, which we really look forward to, because again, we spoke about the cultural ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, all artists live in Soweto, all the service providers come from that area.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking to do. And then on the same weekend, we do Cape Town as well. At this point in time, we're not sure how the V&A series of gigs are going to go, but I think it's going to work. And they're so passionate of working with WOMAD, Western Cape, that I'm sure we'll come up with something.
Sure.
And the reason why we put the 2 big ones at the end on that weekend is because it's easier for us to amortize big artists. So for instance, sure. Next year we've got l'Amazon d'Afrique, which is an all-women super group from West Africa who focus on gender-based violence issues, but they're expensive, you've got to pay in euros. So the idea is we do them in Joburg on the Saturday and then Cape Town on the Sunday. We're talking about a big blues experience. And yes, we're talking about Delta Mississippi blues, Bonnie Raitt and people like that. But our blues, the West African blues that started off with a kora and then migrated over to the States. We've got Zulu Maskandi walking musicians, which is a form of blues as well. So it's a history of the blues kind of thing. And again, artists from all over the world and Indigenous First Nations. That's 2023. If I last that long.
Yeah, anybody. One that COVID taught you was like, you don't know.
Yes.
A month is a long time. Some of the musicians who went to there is fantastic, and it sounds like such a rich, it sounds so rich and so beautiful, and I'm actually that seems like it takes a lot of PR to do all of that, man. To talk to all of these artists from different parts of the world. So you must have a big team working with you.
We don't actually, Wes. We've got a very small 6-man team. What happened was during COVID, with my festival, Awesome Africa, we had a team that had been together for 15 years or so. COVID struck and the guys, there was no work, so they ended up taking these works and these jobs in Qatar and Dubai and United Emirates, Arab Emirates, with the World Cup coming up, So we were decimated. Our team was completely decimated. So we literally literally had to start from scratch. Only 4 of us left, and we brought on a few young guys, who are going to learn and be with us. So it's been a tough journey, but it's incredibly rewarding. I keep saying to my wife, I'm incredibly privileged to be able to make a difference without making money. She can make the big money, and I'll do the difference.
Power to that, my brother. But yeah, man, Dan has got something. We want to wrap it up real quick, and let me just summarize just a few things over there, and we'll just unpick it and sort of wrap it up from there. My brother, this is mostly impressive. One of the things, like I mentioned earlier, which sticks out, is that it's more. You guys are more focused on building the creative ecosystem, and performance is just part of that. I think that as a setup is really is really cool, and the fact that it is actually outside of the most of the mainstream, like Hermanas, for example, not a lot, you're talking about KZN and so forth. I think that's really cool, and then the fact that you guys are bringing in all of this. Artists indigenous artists from all over the world. One of the things about those type of gigs that I enjoy is that I'm a visual artist, and so I get I interpret music differently, and it's like a real people take an energy drink to get energy. That shit energizes the hell out of me, and I know it does for a lot of other artists, poets. A lot of writers, so I know these type of events get that there's playwrights and so forth. So that type of energy, and I think it's needed in this post-COVID world. And I'm actually glad we touched on that, because I know a lot of cats who listen to this show artists that at least will start. I'm glad I could help to sort of get that out there. That's really that's really cool, man. So as I said, the gig starts after the concert starts in a few weeks time. Is there anybody that you think that you I know what I've noticed with your band, you're not marketing a single artist over there, but is there anybody that sticks out that you think people should go check out?
Wes, just touching on the visual arts quickly, the part of the 5-year plan is to bring the music component down to about 60%, where we then include fashion, theater, dance, visual arts, spoken word. So part of the 5-year plan is we gradually bring the music component down and incorporate the other cultural genres. And I think that kind of encapsulates the philosophy, because a lot of people say, oh no, we're not going because we don't recognize anybody. There's nobody that we know. Well, that's the beauty, that's the beauty of it. That's the voyage of experience,
That's interesting.
But I find in South Africa especially, there's a kind of a sensibility that says, oh, well, if I haven't heard the artists, or I don't know them on the digital platforms, then I'm not interested, and that's why we never want to be a one size fits all. Our man from Outer Mongolia, called Hangai, from Outer Mongolia, music that we would never ever relate to. I walked out of that, it was a life-changing experience, because it was throat singing from the steppes of Mongolia. It was punk guitars, rhythms that came out of Tibet and places like that. It's incredible, and I'd never heard of them, And I think that's the audience that we speaking to. We're trying to engage with an audience that wants to learn, wants to find out more about the world around them. If we come away with this year's WOMAD with 4 or 5 really interesting collaborations, I'll be more than happy.
That's
another one. Sorry, Wes. Sorry. One that'll be just down your street is who you'll know, Zolani Maholo from Freshly Ground. She goes by the moniker of the one that sings now. With very strong Xhosa traditions from the Eastern Cape. She's been wanting to break into the European Festival Forum for a long time. So we thought, well, the Modern City Ramblers from Italy play this circuit extensively, you know. I think they do something like 200 gigs a year.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for all of that, man. This line is also very unstable. I know you also got a bounce. My brother, thanks a lot for all of that. I'll wrap the episode up, and like we'll also put out. We'll fund WOMAD on all our platforms as well. We'll publish this episode next week, and we're hoping to get one of our reps into one of the gigs in Soweto, and like do Vox Pops and cover it and broadcast. Because also like you, what we're interested in is also just to document, not just be part of it as art lovers and music, bar art and music lovers, but also just to cover, to broadcast the experience on a digital platform and put that out. And just because, like you were saying earlier, I think these creative ecosystems are important. It's definitely kept a lot of people alive, you know, over the pandemic. I just think it's really important for people to know about. My brother, so let me not keep you up, man. Thanks a lot for coming through. My brother,
thanks, Wes. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And
thank you,
as I mentioned, we'd love to do something in the Northern Cape
for sure
next year. You know, so
the
ideas that we can follow up. Let's try and do that.
Yeah. For sure. I'm also super interested in the.
Thanks a lot.
In with the visual arts and the component, the live theater. There's also a lot of that's really cool. That's really cool. So thanks for that, my brother. We'll be in touch after the episode up. And take care, my brother.
Okay. Thanks, brother.
Bye.
Cheers, Wes. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay,
bye.
Everybody. Bye. Yeah, sure. Okay, everybody. That was Dan Chiorboli. He came to us during a funny time, and like I hope you guys didn't mind all the the internet connection was all funny and stuff, and that it frustrates the shit out of me, to be honest. And Siza couldn't make it, but I know she had like no kid issues aside. Guys, remember to catch us on all the streaming platforms. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment to the channel. As I believe. Remember, I'm gonna share all the information about WOMAD on this episode. And what was the other thing? Yeah, like, subscribe, comment. Big up to Julius, Patson, for producing everything. And there was another thing. Yes, last week I mentioned we had an intern, but it's a since game that the intern told me to F myself. Not cool with my sister, so we don't have an intern. So if there's any of you guys out there that is looking to do that wants to intern to the Art Takes a Podcast, give me a shout. Anyway, catch you guys next week. Bye-bye.